Okay, good evening, everyone. Jim Williams, end of hurricane season show. I am not feeling good at all tonight. I'm stuffy. I've got a bad cough. So, you know how you have people out there that do these shows called Coffee Talk? Well, this is just going to be cough talk tonight because it's brutal. And I have my co host coming on here a little bit. He's sick as well, Bill Phillips. So, we'll try to get through the show tonight as good as possible. But I'm going to be coughing a lot tonight. So, just be prepared for that. Anyway, hope you all got through the hurricane season okay. I know for a fact, probably about 70% of the audience out there did not have to deal with tropical storm force conditions this year. Well, maybe it's about 60% actually. About 60% of the people did not have to deal with tropical storm or hurricane conditions, and about 37% of the Atlantic Basin did have to deal with it this year, which is pretty low, and I'll get to those graphics in just a minute. But if you were up in the Big Bend area of Florida, that was the area that got hammered this year by Hurricane Idalia, and if you survived that, I've got to give you a like. That was a tough one for that area because in modern days, anybody living up there has not been through a major hurricane in that neck of the woods. And a lot of those areas, there's a lot of small towns up in that area. And amazingly, nobody died in storm surge from that storm either. So as high as that water got, as much from what I understand, in some areas it got up to 12 feet. I don't really know if that's true. Maybe, I guess you got the elevation of the land that's gradually goes up and up. And technically on the tide gauges it was 12 feet, but from what we saw, at least the remote cameras that Bill and I set up, was probably more like the 5 to 6 foot range, maybe 7 feet in some areas. But I'll show you some videos of that in a little bit coming up here. But this hurricane season was really strange because we had a situation with all the storms basically being out in the Atlantic this year. We had a busy season, 19 named storms, actually 20. One of them back in January was not named. And, by the way, there's been a whole bunch of off-season storms, and we may see some this year. But 19 official named storms, and the majority of those were out in the open waters. Just got to get one adjustment here, folks. Let's see. Yep, got to get my mini. I'm going to show you some images tonight, so I got to get my mini. It suddenly disappeared here. So had it set up before the show started tonight, and it just disappeared. So this is an image that kind of reflects what I think about this hurricane season. And there it is. It's basically, there's the spaghetti. You were talking about spaghetti models, and land would be the white area. So basically, that's the extent of the Atlantic hurricane season in a nutshell. Right there is all the activity out there in the dark, meaning the Atlantic and the Florida, and I think South Texas got a tropical storm, and the Outer Banks got tropical storm Ophelia. And the Canadian Maritimes got Lee, and one other system that got close to them up there. But again, it was if it wasn't for Idalia, and I went over this on the hurricane season not the kickoff show, on my predictions video, stating that there have been about 12 or 13 seasons where we had no landfalling hurricanes, and that almost happened this year. If it didn't happen for Idalia, which for all intents and purposes, that system developed in the East Pacific and moved up into the Western Caribbean Sea, where it developed and then moved into the Eastern Gulf of Mexico. Had that not happened, an unusual track like that, we may have had no hurricanes hit the United States this year. And then, of course, the other hurricane impacting land was Hurricane Tammy, affecting the island of Barbuda. I'll get to all these graphics in a minute. But here's another one that kind of reflects my thoughts. There's the state of Florida, right? And there's all the spaghetti right off the coast. And, Idalia, I made it look like Idalia did a run around the Keys, but that's not really what happened. It came in from the Western Caribbean Sea. So overall, I would say, you know, uh, I would say that it's probably a good thing that we had a season like this. I know I feel bad for the people up in the Big Bend. They were impacted by Hurricane Idalia. There's still a lot of cleanup. I think we had 4 fatalities from that storm, mainly in the inland areas. But it's going to be a little bit of a recovery for these people up there because they're just not used to this kind of damage. But it could have been far worse. And I look at it as a win-win from a personal perspective. I cover hurricanes. Let me tell you, I love hurricanes, especially Atlantic Basin hurricanes. And a lot of guys out there, they cover East Pacific, they'll cover the West Pacific, they'll cover the Indian Ocean, all those storms out there. I'm really not into that. And I'm not really into the tornadoes and snowstorms. I'm curious. I mean, I watch it and I pay attention to it, but my thing is Atlantic hurricanes. That's the way it's been since I was a little kid. And I've really been, well, a little kid, meaning a teenager, I guess. But I've been into it that long, since being a teenager. That's really all I was ever thinking about is Atlantic hurricanes and Florida specifically. Are they coming to Florida? What's going to happen? When that happens, and is the damage going to be real bad? And so, I mean, this is why I do what I do. I'm an Atlantic hurricane guy, and that's the way I've always rolled with Hurricane City. But the phone's ring. It never fails during a show. Yep, Michael. Yeah, what's going on, Michael? Uh huh. No, that's a stupid idea. We have we've had 19 named storms. Uh, I'll be with you in a minute, folks. Michael Brennan from the Hurricane Center on the phone here. You know, we do have off season storms, but okay. You want to extend the hurricane season? Oh. Did you speak to Jamie Rome and Jack Bevan and Eric Blake and all those guys? Did you? What about Richard Pash? What does he think about that? Uh, you want to go one more month? I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, we have like an average of once every 3 years we get an off-season named storm, but I don't think this year is anything special to extend the hurricane season. No, I don't know. I'll call you back. I'll call you later on, and we'll discuss this. Jeez, the nerve of that guy. What? What's he thinking? Like, yeah, let's extend the hurricane season. Come on, man. That's just a ridiculous idea. I don't know. But anyway, no, back to what I was saying. So, here is uh, here's the map showing the all the storms this year, and again, they're all concentrated out in the open Atlantic there. And by the way, Bermuda, oh my God, Bermuda had a hell of a year. 4 named storms impacted them this year, and when you look at Bermuda, which if you drew a line, it's kind of hard to see on this map, but if you drew a line north of Puerto Rico, straight up, uh, north of Puerto Rico, a couple 100 miles, you'd run into Bermuda. And that's where all that spider's nest of tracks are right over Bermuda or right near Bermuda. And think about this. In 2020, Bermuda had 3 storms. In 2022, they had 3 storms. And in 2024, they had 4 storms. So that's 10 named storms altogether. So since 2020. So that's an amazing amount of named storms that have impacted Bermuda. Incredible. So here's my maps of going back to 2020. So we had 83% of the cities in the Hurricane City database impacted by a named storm, 40 mile per hour plus winds impacted these areas. So notice that 87% of these areas in my database were impacted in 2020. Then look at 2021. It drops down to 55% of all the cities were impacted. And then Go to 2022, it drops even more. 45% of all the cities were impacted by 40-mile-per-hour winds. And then here's this year's season, 2023, down to 37% of all the areas in the database that were impacted by a named storm. So even though we're getting a lot of storms, it seems to be dropping each year. Now, who's to say this might recycle again, and next year we might end up with 80% of the cities impacted next year? But I went back and did a little bit of research on El Nino, and we were right around 1.2 to 1.5 degrees in the eastern Pacific sea surface temperature region that indicates an El Nino. And I went back and looked at all the years that have a similar temperature to what we have right now. And the following years were kind of slow hurricane seasons. So this may linger, the effects of this El Nino season may linger into next year. I don't know that to be a fact. I'm going to pay attention to what everybody says. But my question is, and by the way, you can all chime in anytime you want. I have the comments open tonight. You can if you have anything to say on YouTube or Facebook, I think the comments are available tonight. So you can say whatever you want to say, and I'll put it on air if I think it's worthy. But do you think that El Nino is a big player anymore with global warming and all these named storms popping up? I mean, or do we need a really, really strong El Nino to tamper down activity? And is a La Nina, the opposite of El Nino, is that going to cause more storms, or is that not a factor? So there's a lot of unknowns, and I'm going to play a clip in a little bit of Phil Klotzbach saying this was like 10 years ago. I'll play it in a little while, but I have a clip of him saying that if we don't see a change in 10 years with the amount of named storms, then we got to relook at this whole thing. And I would love to talk to him personally and play that tape back to him and say, so we're here. Nothing's changing. We're still seeing a lot of named storms out there, despite all the unfavorable conditions out there. So, in fact, the last season that was really slow, I think, was 2014 and 13. We only had like a little over like around a dozen or less named storms. So, but since then, it's just been lights out with the hurricane seasons and the amount of activity out there. So here's my predictions from this past season, which were absolutely horrific. And you guys know if uh, if I'm putting a lot of effort into these, I can do better than this. But I had a lot of medical issues leading into the 2023 season. I'm still dealing with those issues, and I did not use all the criteria that I normally use. So what I did get right, I would say it's 50-50 on my top five, because I thought that there would be something near South Florida and the Northwest Bahamas. That did not happen, as you can see. And the Northern Gulf and the Panhandle area, that did not happen. But the Outer Banks there, Tropical Storm Ophelia, so I got that. And my biggest score of the predictions from 2023 was Hurricane Lee, which became post-tropical. It hit Nova Scotia, but it hit Maine in the process. And Maine was in my top five this year, even though Maine, I hardly ever pick Maine. Like, you'll never see Maine in my top list ever. And so I did have an indication that there would be a storm moving north and would impact Maine and the Canadian Maritimes, perhaps. And so I'm not willing to give. There we go. I knew this was going to happen. Anyway, I've only predicted 12 named storms, and that's the problem, because if I would have gone with maybe 18 or 17 named storms as a prediction, there would have been different areas that would have been projected. And I was leaning on a slower hurricane season of 12 named storms or less. So it just didn't, even though I was right on these geographical areas because they were due or overdue, and there's other criteria that go into it, but and so analog years, etc. Years in the past that were similar to what the El Nino pattern was for this year. I did not predict a proper amount of named storms. So even if I was 100% right, people would say, "Well, yeah, but you didn't predict the right amount of named storms, so it kind of washes your predictions." But um, you know. Uh, by the way, again, anytime you want to comment in the comment areas on YouTube and Facebook, I'll put your comments up on the board here on the broadcast, but I'm not sure if a lot of people are watching. You got political debates, you got the Golden Bachelor, all these other things going on tonight. So who knows if people are even watching tonight? So that leads us in. Look, for all intents and purposes, this season came down to one big storm, and that was Idalia. Idalia was the storm of the year for the Atlantic, and I know we had Otis in the Pacific. We'll talk about that as well, which was an even bigger story. But for the Atlantic Basin, it was Hurricane Idalia, which hit the Panhandle on not the Panhandle, Big Bend, Florida area on October 30th, August 30th rather, August, and then going into September, early September before it exited the Atlantic Basin, the Atlantic East Coast, but. That storm getting into Big Bend was a huge thing for the people up there. They never deal with anything like this. So that's where I segue into my co host this evening. Bill Phillips is joining us from Virginia Beach. And Bill, let me get our split screen up here. Let me get rid of that first. Hold on a minute. There we go. All right, Bill. Thank you for joining me tonight. Welcome to the show, and congratulations on your first intercept.
Thank you. Long overdue. Didn't know if we would ever get the chance to do it, but we got it done.
Yeah, and I'm going to put the scroll up here because that has some information about the statistics of this hurricane season. Let's see, here it is. Yeah, and you can read that while we're doing our show here tonight. But all the stats from this year will be scrolling across the bottom of the screen, and of course
They're there. We're good.
Anyway, so all right, go ahead, Bill. So let's start this out by kind of laying the groundwork on what we did this year. So I had talked for years about getting you in a hurricane, and for a variety of reasons, COVID and all the other stuff. And by the way, COVID. Let's start with that because I know you're not feeling well either.
Get your little PSA announcement. Hopefully, I'm going to actually get my booster for COVID tomorrow. The only reason I didn't get it earlier this week is I didn't want to be sick for the show because I know for 3 or 4 days after getting these shots, I'm gonna feel like absolute crap. Sorry, I mean, it is just these shots suck, but it's better to deal with the shot than deal with COVID by itself.
Right.
And it doesn't even. I mean, I had my whole family pretty much in Indianapolis right now has COVID. My stepfather, my mom's got it. Both one of my nieces has it. My younger brother has it. I mean, it's running roughshod right now through the Midwest. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's all over the Midwest and it's in the deep South too. So it's all over the place. But problem I'm having is coughing. I'm surprised I've only coughed once so far on the show here, but I've been machine gun coughing. And for those of you that remember all the medical problems I went through last year, coughing was one of the reasons that started all my intestinal issues and everything. It was these really horrible coughs. So I'm guzzling NyQuil right now, the cough syrup and everything's just trying to battle it, and I'll get through it. But I hope everybody out there is being careful. And if you're getting around crowds and everything, it's just not a good time. There's something going around. The news hasn't really quite covered it yet, but I mean, it's big in China. It's big in the United States now. Hospitals are filling up. So this is a big deal. It just hasn't really hit the mainstream yet. So just be careful while you're out there.
Old Dominion is going to probably have a bowl game here in the next couple of weeks. I was thinking about going to that. No, I'll skip it. Enough with. I've gone to 6. I went to 5 of 6 games and got away with it without getting seriously ill. I don't need to travel somewhere. That'll be my luck to get it. So no, I'll skip it.
All right. So back to hurricane talk. Enough of the COVID. I'm all over it.
I'm over it.
But anyway, so Idalia forms in the Western Caribbean, and you and I were on the phone kind of discussing, because for Bill to do this, it's kind of a Herculean task, right? You have to, he has to get transportation to the airport in Norfolk, where in Virginia Beach, where he lives, and then uh, it's getting transportation to the airport, then getting on the plane, getting off the plane. I gotta pick him up, and we go, right. So I mean, and we had talked about possibly him meeting me in the impact areas, like if it was going to hit New Orleans or Pensacola or something like that, he would fly directly in. But he came down here, so it's kind of a big deal. We have to jump out way out in front of this, and we kind of felt like this is going to be the storm of the year. Him and I, we were looking at the models and everything, and we're like, and by the way, speaking of models, very quickly, the Canadian this year was awesome. Like the CMC model did really good on all the major systems that were headliners. Um, of course, the Euro nailed the track on Adalia, but I mean, overall, with all the, Tammy and Ophelia and Lee and Adalia, the Canadian really outshined everybody this year, but that's an whole
The
other.
5 to 7 day model guidance was really good.
Yeah, a little bit, hairy on the intensity stuff, but I mean, track they did really good. Hurricane Center did an outstanding job this year. Congratulations to those guys. That was shtick, by the way, on that phone call. I wasn't talking to anybody at the National Hurricane Center.
That was actually really good.
Yeah,
There'd be a surprise for that. Hey, and I have it on good authority. Remember when we went to the Hurricane Center, Jack Bevan said the one thing he told me was at the start of the hurricane season, what's the one word he brought up to me, and I'll never forget it? Shift work. They don't like it. They have to do shift work during the hurricane season itself. That means 12 on, 12 off. That sucks.
Right.
They don't like it. They do it. It's a labor of love, but shift work. Nobody likes that in any job.
Yeah. So what? In most lines of work, somebody has to work in the middle of the night. It's the way it is, and it's usually the new guys or the seniority gets to make the calls. But anyway, that's a whole other.
Yeah, that's a whole.
But anyway,
that's a whole other can of worms. Move on.
All right, so I pick you up and at the airport in Palm Beach. You flew into Palm Beach, and the first thing that happens is Bill gets in the truck, everything's good, and I can't get the utility doors to shut for some reason.
The damn door wouldn't close.
Yeah, the door, like, all the time, open and close these doors like 150 times, and the one door where Bill's bag wouldn't shut, and it wasn't because the bag was in the way. It was because something happened along the way that just caused the door not shut. So luckily, we were right around the corner from Rayside, which put the bed on the truck, and they were able to fix the doors. And the guy was all excited about the fact we were going in the hurricane. He goes, "Oh, I'm going to be watching the live stream and everything." So
what do you have to do? Wasn't it just a peg he had to fix or something? That's all.
Yeah, the peg that the door latches onto got tilted somehow, and so he straightened it out. The door was able to shut. Because otherwise, the whole trip would have been off. Because there's no way you could drive around with open utility doors on a truck
wide open. Going down 95 or 75.
Yeah, the wind would have blew them right open, so it just wouldn't work. So anyway, we get that fixed. Bill comes to the house. We start watching the models. It's definitely going to happen. So we're taking off. And we get into the impact area. We were kind of pegging Perry all along. I was kind of thinking maybe a little south of there. Maybe just maybe Cedar Key was what we were kind of thinking at first. And then I thought, it's going to probably come in a little north of there. So we stayed at this hotel just south of Perry. Well, actually, the first night we got there, we stayed at the Holiday Inn in Perry. And then because of all the media that was there, we got kicked out of that hotel. And then we had to go find another hotel, which there were a plethora of storm chasers up there. And there was a ton of media. And they were booking all the hotels along with all the insurance adjusters and the emergency management.
Yeah, they literally kicked us out of the hotel. I mean, we had to leave.
Like slim pickings for hotels. And you got to realize this is an area with a lot of small towns. There's not a whole lot of available vacancies, and a lot of the small hotels simply weren't taking anybody. So, you know what? I lost the image viewer again. I was just about to show your image. I think it timed out. I think that thing times out after a certain amount of time.
It might.
It might be. All right, let me pull it up again here, and I'm going to show you.
Why Jim brings up that the image viewer, we end up at this dive motel. Didn't have a choice. It's the only place we could find. And by dive, I mean dive. I mean, basically, it's one of those hotels you see like on First 48 or one of the crime shows, a place you don't want to be.
Right.
It's not good.
Right.
I mean, it's ripe with anything and everything goes on in there, I promise.
All right, so here you are in the hotel. This is the little motel called
tilt
the Cadillac Motel, and it was far from a Cadillac.
No.
So, but if you look at this image here, look on the floor. There's like, I think that's a bug right there,
That's
like
a cockroach.
right on the seam of the tiles, and there's another one near his foot. Like they were everywhere in here, dude. It was crazy. Going to the bathroom, they're crawling up the walls, and it's like, we had nowhere else to go, and we got a major hurricane bearing down on us. So, and we got to be in the affected area, so we don't have to drive 3 hours. So we're there,
The only good thing here is, and this is why we did this roach infested hole, is we had entry and exit points. We had nobody monitoring when we could leave and when we come back. That's why we were in there.
Yeah.
That's the nicer hotel, I think.
And so here you are looking at one of the roaches coming up behind you. And I mean, they were crawling everywhere. It was even that. You see the bathroom door behind my arm there? Like there's this, the doorknob was missing, and the place was a pig pen. I mean, it's just
yeah, it's bad.
But anyway, all right. So we.
Long story short, we'll bring our own toiletries and a can of rain next time. That's it.
Yeah. All right, so the big day arrives. We wake up at like 5 a.m. and the landfall is going to take place around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. So we get up and we head to. Now, the day before, we set up the remote cameras, one in Keaton Beach and one in Steinhatchee, on the Steinhatchee River. And so we were already, the cameras were up, set, ready to go. Everything was operational. We just had to get there. We're driving in the dark, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. We head up into Perry. We get down the main strip. There's like 10 storm chasers on either side of the main strip going in.
Yeah, it was a damn convention.
It was like a convention, and so we decided to go a little bit further north, up to where I don't know. I guess everybody saw the canopy that fell over, the big gas station canopy. We were sitting in front of that. That's where our start was, and we left right before that fell over. But that was so that's where we started. So we decided to leave there. We went back south again towards the Shell station that we felt had an open parking lot where nothing's going to hit us. Because what I do with the vehicle, we have the protective Lexan glass back into the wind, find an open area, and let it fly. And that's the way I film hurricanes. Like I did with Michael in 2018. A lot of the storm chasers were hunkered down in hotels and everything, and I was out there in an open parking lot, filming it as it was all happening. As long as I got that protective glass and I'm in the open area, you let it fly, and that's what we did. So here we go. This is the first video. These may be out of sequence, but it really doesn't matter. So here we go. This is one, and then we'll comment as it came in with 120. Actually, at this point, it was 115 mile per hour winds coming right over Perry. Here it goes.
Now it's not 80.
That's 90.
I'm hearing stuff. Look, that might be the back of the truck.
Okay. You there?
I haven't touched it.
Oh, there you are. Okay. So what are your thoughts on that particular video right there?
It was just starting to get bad at that point. So I mean, the highlight of the that whole event was the ice chest. You'll see in a minute. That was kind of tame right there, but it's starting to pick up. But
Yeah, so I want to. So now that you mentioned that, okay, I'm ready to cue that video up. But we're going to say some things in here. We measured a gust to 166 miles per hour in Hurricane Idalia. I had a lot of mixed emotions about that reading because it. We'll talk about it after the video, but you'll hear us say it during the live feed. 166. Now that could have
we'll
been.
explain it as when we're done here. Rolling.
Yeah, there could have been a vortice. We don't know. I'm pretty confident of the reading on that because I said to Bill, even if it's off by 30 miles an hour, that's still 130 mile an hour gust. So here it is.
Rolling.
Ooh, hello. What was that?
166 miles an hour. 166.5 mile per hour wind gust we just had. Here we go with the debris.
Yep.
The station's starting to come apart.
If you want recording, what's your pressure at?
Pressure is 963. Let's get the remote cams. All right, so what are you thinking there?
100. It was. I mean, it could have been a vortice. But I mean, I distinctly remember on the backside when the pressure was going up back towards 970, that same cup measured a gust to 130. So what's to say that wasn't accurate? I mean, I'm kind of half. I mean, I've got, like you, I've got mixed emotions about it because you've used those cups for years, the magnetics, and they always match
Yeah, and so I got
the wind
home.
measurements that we've been able to see in other storms. So what makes this different?
Yeah, exactly. And so I got home and tested it with a leaf blower, right? And it was measuring about 20 miles an hour off of what it normally measures. And then it got me to thinking maybe the wind gust that thing sustained during that hurricane mangled it, and it never recovered from that. And so it could have very well been 106. Because think about this, and I said this to Bill a week ago. Like, okay, if with that logic, then when it was measuring 50 or 60 miles per hour, does that really mean that the winds were only blowing at 25 to 30 in the middle of a hurricane? I seriously doubt that.
No, because I know what 25 and 30 mile an hour winds feel like. I'm out in them all the time, especially up here. We get that constantly. That was not 25 and 30 mile an hour winds. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Next
So
question. Next.
yeah. So all right, here's a close up of that video, right? And I just want to show this because it shows the power, and when that happened, ice just blew off the building. We didn't know that happened because it happened so quickly. But here's the kind of slow motion of it.
Ooh, hello. What was that?
So, again, that thing is grabbing that ice chest off the wall, spinning it around, flipping it over, and then shoving it out into the middle of the street. So
What's
that's
that weigh
a
fully
incredible amount.
loaded?
Those things weigh 680 pounds or something like that. Or I think that's what it is.
And then they're closer to 500 if they're not loaded.
Okay. I can't remember what the figure
Yeah,
was.
I remember you telling me that. That's why I'm trying to make the. Still, whether it's 500 or 680, it takes a lot to move something like that.
Right. All right. So at this point in the process, you know what? I think I know what's going on with the Mini is falling asleep here. That's what's happening. Let me see here.
You got to set that to never during these shows.
Yeah. It's always something.
It's all right.
Okay, I think I got it fixed now. Okay, so
Oh shit.
by the way, you guys, if you want to comment, we'll show them on air. So we were at, okay, so here's the point of landfall from the statement from the National Hurricane Center on Idalia. And by the way, folks, we're not just going to talk about Idalia today. We're going to get to all the other storms. Idalia just happens to be the first one that was a headliner for this past hurricane season. But you see,
Lee and Tammy, they're coming.
Yeah. So we were talking about the Hurricane Center came out. The radar imagery indicates that Idalia made landfall in the Big Bend near Keaton Beach, and you'll see our camera caught the eye. Data from the Air Force reconnaissance indicate the winds were 125 mile per hour at landfall, and pressure was 949. So that leads into the next video, which is this one. And this is on our camera in Steinhatchee. Whoa, look over here. There's a big canopy blowing. There it goes.
Gone. And it,
Wow.
that, whatever,
There it goes, flying way over there in the corner.
I'm wondering if we just topped 166. That lifted, whatever that was, lifted this truck.
A little bit.
Wait, this wind is blowing. I'm gonna get.
Can I help you with compass at all, or can I do anything for you? Open compass. Says we're southwest right now.
Raymond right at the wind. I mean. All right. So, on that particular video, we had that canopy blowing. Now, during the filming, I wanted to ask you about this because you said to me, whenever you want to film, Jim, it's okay, roll the window down. So I put the window down, and I was using a digital 4K camera to capture a lot of stuff too. And I wanted to get that shot, of the clarity out the window. And Bill's like, close it, close it, close it.
I understand. I've never been through conditions like this. Yeah, I'm a little. I'm a little gun shy. And Jim's like, roll the window down. He's been through this X number of times. It's my first time, so I'm trying to understand. You're on sensory overload going through one of these things for the first time. I mean, there's so many sounds and so many different sights that it's just straight up overload when you go through this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's loud. It's a lot louder when you roll the window down too.
Yes, it is.
You hear everything a lot more enhanced for sure. All right, this video, I'm not sure. This is, I think, when the eye was coming right over us. So here's this video. We're like right where an eye would be if there were an eye. It's filled up. There is literally no eye on this thing right now. Okay, so now this is when your pressure bottomed out here. I got it up on the screen. 955.4 you measured on your barometer on your iPad.
That's the iPad that measured that.
Right. So meanwhile, the Crestal was at 957. So it makes you wonder, like, okay, well, they're both showing different elevations, and we had an elevation of like 30 feet, I think, where we were sitting, and yours saying like 40, and mine was saying 50 feet. So I don't know, for millibars, the way millibars work is for every 12 feet it drops 0.1 millibar for every 12 feet. So even if you're 50 feet off, it shouldn't make that much of a difference. Maybe a half a millibar or something.
Not 3 millibars though. That's
So I'm wondering if all these other guys that are out there with barometers have them calibrated correctly. So I just think it's an inexact science because, first of all, you have to be in the direct center of the eye to get the lowest pressure. Then you have to be, the eye has to be there, and the eye kind of collapsed on this one. So, I just don't see how anybody could have got below 950 on shore with this one at all. We were at 955. Maybe a couple guys got 952, perhaps, in this situation, but I don't really buy the 950 sub 950 readings that anybody was giving out on that.
949 over the water. Yeah, I buy that. Over the water, but
All right, so here's right. So this guy, so we're out there doing the just kind of getting ourselves in order, after the
doing
eye
our thing.
over, and this guy comes walking up to the truck, and we're like, I don't even know who this guy is. He's probably another storm chaser. And by the way, there were so many weird vehicles out there driving around. There was a guy in a semi truck. I saw a guy in a U-Haul truck. I saw sports cars, SUV.
Clown cars, everything.
Yeah, everybody. A lot of the guys had yellow lights. They were racing up and down the road. I think it's unnecessary. First of all, the yellow lights I don't get because all it does is kill people's shots. And it's really unnecessary unless you're disabled in the road or something, or you're stopped in the middle of the road, perhaps. I guess it's good to have them on. But when you're just driving down the road, there's really no need to have those yellow lights going like that. And, LEDs blasting on each other. I noticed some guys shooting LEDs from different angles. And, I've been watching this show called Shot in the Dark. And it's a Netflix series about stringers, guys that go and cover news stories for the LA TV stations out there, and they have their scanners in their trucks. And as soon as they hear a call come in, they're racing and they're running red lights, going through stop signs. I mean, going 80 miles an hour down side streets to get to the crime scene or whatever they're filming. And it
And
reminds
you wonder why the police want to encrypt all of it.
Yeah, exactly. And they jump right in the middle of the crime scene with their cameras and everything. And it reminded me kind of what the storm chasers do. But thinking on what we did, I watched a lot of video on storm chasers. First of all, we photobombed like 3 other guys' storm chaser videos with the truck. It showed up in 3 other guys' videos. But
That's when you know you're in the right spot, when you get on everybody's shot.
yeah. And not only that, but I look back at the video we got, the ice maker blowing off the wall. I didn't see anybody get a video like that. Nothing. I saw a couple guys have roofs flapping. I saw some shots of the boats going down the river. Somebody got a good shot of the canopy falling over. But other than that, our video was right there without racing up and down the street going 80 miles an hour. So I don't really understand the concept of that at all.
Because the more you move, especially in a major, and this was a major, you don't want to be, because, Jim, you've done this more than me, and I don't want to speak out of turn here because I've only done this once in person. But you're putting yourself in jeopardy by moving around a lot, because if you're positioned wrong in the wind, if you have the truck at the wrong angle, for instance, and you get a gust, you might be screwed depending on how that wind catches it. You've got to be really
But a
careful.
lot of these guys, they don't do it that way. They just race up and down the road. Now, granted, this was a major, but most of the guys were experiencing Cat 2 winds, so it's not like it's going to flip your vehicle over. But
No.
you have dangling power lines, you've got debris in the road, you're going 80 miles an hour, and you don't know if you're going to hit something like that. To me, I just saw a lot of behavior in there that was just, most of the guys were doing it right, but there was a few out there that were just acting completely crazy out there, and I just don't see the need for that. It's a small town. You can go and get all the shots you need, as the winds calm down a little bit, but I guess the nature of the business, I don't know. But here we are in the eye, taking a break here.
There we go. What's your pressure at, though?
I got 958.
I think that's about as low as it's going to go.
All right, so so we were, and that's I think right before that is when that guy walked up there and asked us the question. He kept saying, "Oh my God, that was amazing."
Yeah.
I
You
don't
got
think
some water over there?
I don't think I have that video though. No, I don't have that particular video where the guy walks up. I don't have it queued up in the system. But
But it's on the archive. We got it. Watch the
so anyway,
archive.
all right. So now the eye passes by. The video in Keaton Beach. I thought I had that queued up in here, and I guess I don't.
You showed it to me yesterday. I thought you had it.
No. But anyway, it's really quiet in Keaton Beach. We mounted the camera on a palm tree, and the crickets, birds, you could hear them all cricketing and birding, and there was no storm surge, nothing. It was just quiet. And then the backside comes in, and the water suddenly rises to like 5 feet. It was amazing. And by the way, that video is on this YouTube channel that you're watching this on right now, if you're watching in this YouTube channel. And
Any comments, Jim?
it's also on Facebook. Huh?
Any comments?
No comments yet. Nobody's saying anything. I don't think anybody's responded or said anything yet. But I know it's active because I see it on the screen here. So, all right. So anyway, the eye passes. The water rises about 5 or 6 feet, and the Steinhatchee River goes nuts, and Keaton Beach goes crazy with storm surge. And here we are, still in Perry, Florida, on the other side of the street as the backside eye wall comes in.
Sustained winds of 130 miles per hour, which is a potentially catastrophic category for hurricane.
Winds are shifting. We got a lot of debris flying around.
Is still forecast through landfall.
129.50.
Dahlia is now forecast to be a potentially catastrophic category for hurricane at landfall.
Okay.
Oh, am I glad you played that video?
90.
There's a roar and it rocks the truck when you get near and over 100. And then
And then we drive it by and see the ice the ice machine right out in the middle of the road.
wow.
Flung it right off that Shell station.
Now that takes some force to do that. Those things are heavy.
Let's drive down. And then we go and look at the aftermath.
Econo and Pizza Hut look okay.
We were going to stay at the Gandy Motor Lodge, but they didn't have any.
I was eyeballing that on the way through here for staying there.
Manual, but it's an old roof.
Yeah.
Look at it.
All right, so at this point, we're driving around, obviously looking at the damage and everything. But what was your impression of what you experienced with the wind versus what damage you looked at?
I thought there would be more damage with what we saw with the wind. I was really kind of shocked at the lack of. I don't want to say there wasn't damage, but the severity wasn't. Well, I expected more. I expected it to be more severe. Now, if you go down towards Keaton Beach, you know there was an office wiped out. That was storm surge that did that.
Right.
And you had a lot of houses in that little development we were in right by the beach that you could see where surge got in there, and there was some roofs peeled back where wind got in there and peeled it a little bit. I mean, there were issues. It was spotty. I guess I expected more from a major, but that could have been my jaded expectation from not having been through this either.
Well, you also have to consider we were way inland. Perry, Florida, and that's why there were
14 miles inland.
so many chasers in that city because there is no other city close to the coast except for Keaton Beach, which went underwater. So you can't be there because it's going to go underwater. So all the guys were focused in Perry, which happens to be about 14 miles off the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. For comparison purposes, South Florida, if you went 14 miles in off the Atlantic, you'd be out to the edge of the Everglades. That's how far inland we were in this hurricane. So it's not really a fair representation of a major hurricane. Barely.
I'm closer to the beach where I sit in Virginia Beach right now than I was in Perry, folks. I mean, I'm only about 10 or 11 miles back from the ocean myself here in Virginia Beach.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean,
it's a huge difference. Like
big difference.
1 mile to 14 miles inland is a huge difference. So anyway, the flooding was the big problem because the storm surge came in and we had to go get those cameras, right? So we're monitoring it. And here's a clip of us. I'm not sure what order these are in, but you'll see the remote camera with the storm surge and us driving around trying to get to the camera. Here it is.
Joys and living.
That's actually a good shot. Let me get a film of that.
Yeah. And go full screen on that for them.
And we can get out here.
Yeah.
All right. Yep, all these buildings here. There's a little.
All right, so then we go to get the camera in Keaton Beach. Here we drive in.
And there, look, everything's gone. There's our camera. Sitting on the tree right there.
Bingo.
Right there. Let's drive around the other way. Come in.
Well, now we know we're going home.
Yeah, everything got wiped out here. There were some structures around here and they're gone. Look at the office is completely gone.
Wow. Holy shit. That's all water too, because the winds weren't strong enough to do that.
Can't get through that way.
That's all water damage. That's all surge.
Let's ask the survey guy. Maybe he knows how high it got in here.
That's proof.
That whole thing's decapitated.
Now that damage was wind damage.
Yeah.
Come
What are
on.
the chances of that?
Here's the
Really?
canopy that
We were sitting right here and it flipped.
How long did we sit in front of that canopy, Jim? 2
Oh,
hours?
probably an hour. Probably an hour until it got light out. Then we moved.
Yeah. I mean, we sat there. It wasn't 10 minutes. That thing flipped over by the time we left. I don't even think it was that. As soon as we left, it flipped.
Yeah, and then on the way out, we started to move out of the road for the emergency people to get in and out of. This is off the side actually, road leading in and out of side actually. But
Don't speak over the video. That's my bad.
what's that?
It's cutting you off. Don't speak over the video.
Oh, don't worry. You can talk over this anyway. I mean, we're just you're in the truck. And we're just talking.
Yeah, I'm in the truck. Jim's playing, not playing, but he's being good Samaritan here, helping clear trees and open the road for there was a whole convoy first responders and tree removal people that they were happy to have his help. Let me tell you.
Yeah, those trees held up pretty well. I would say the kind of tree damage we saw was about maybe every 150 to 200 yards would be a tree down, either partially on the road or all the way across the road. And we would stop and move the trees that were all the way across the road so people didn't have to drive in the shade ditches to get, to the homes. And as we were heading out, here comes the convoy, right? The convoy, I guess the National Guard was there, local police, firefighters. They were all coming in to see action. And I had already cleared the path out front of them, so once that last tree
Holding up
was
the
out
whole
of the way,
convoy
boom.
here.
So the truck was going to work like a charm, and here we go, pulling it out.
I don't think they mind. They know what you're. I think they know what you're trying to do.
By the way, I had a winch on the truck that got the as well, but never got a chance to do that winch. So this was the first time we did this.
Right.
Well, this goes on for about 5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and go back.
That's enough of this. You get the point.
Yeah. All right. So
before we get too far away from it, the only negative thing I want to attack the government on, maybe for Idalia, they've got to do a better job of making sure that no weather radio is updated. That's why I was nuts when I saw that video, because some of that stuff was 2.5, 3 hours old, and maybe there's a technical problem, maybe it's low staffing, but you would think they would have a plan for that. Have it updated. You can't have stuff be 3 hours old on that thing.
Yeah.
Not in the middle of that. I'm sorry. They can do better.
All right. Benjamin David Perez says hi on Facebook. At least we got one. Again, anybody wants to comment here, feel free to say hello to us or comment about the hurricane season. So your overall thoughts, I know the government, I don't know.
But I mean, I'm just trying to, it's constructive criticism. I think they can do better. I mean, I do think the whole warning process has gotten a lot better. But the Hurricane Center did their job. The forecasting was great for Idalia. They did their job. They did what they should do. As you and I continue to cough to death. So I mean, I've got no qualms with that. But that's it.
Now you're right about the NOAA weather radio, though. I mean, they could have had that updated a little quicker. Because they were giving old information out, and it's like, oh, it's still a Cat 4, and it wasn't a Cat 4 at landfall.
No, I mean, that's misleading. Now, maybe they leave that up there to maybe scare people so that, maybe they think it's Cat 4, so they won't go outside, but conditions don't lie. I mean, Cat 4s don't lie. I mean, no, they need to do a better job. They need to update that quicker, and they can. I mean, I was just a little shocked by that.
An automated system, and they were probably evacuated, or maybe they weren't on top of that enough.
But you would think they would have a plan for that, because the Weather Service knows not everybody's going to leave. So you're doing them a disservice by not having that update.
Yeah, but you know what? 99.9% of the people are getting their information off the TV anyway, the local TV station, radio. So I mean, that's it's more decoration than anything else. I mean, with the NOAA weather radio, I think.
Yeah, it
More,
is.
more for tornadoes and stuff. I think that's more comes in handy, or long range forecast and stuff like that.
It has. I had some nights in Indiana when I was a kid where that no weather radio it will save your ass at 3 o'clock in the morning. Let me tell you.
All right, so Chris is on the screen here. It was really great that you guys were there to move the trees and the first responders could get through. Appreciate that, Chris, and thank you so much, Chris Hollis up in Tampa. You know, he's had a rough couple of years. He had Ian last year he had to evacuate for, and I think he evacuated this time too for Adalia. But this time he was getting footage of the flooding waters from Adalia because I think flooding was more of an issue this time around than with
Ian. Yeah.
Ian. But Chris has had it. You know, I mean, he's had to evacuate or think about evacuating at least twice in the last 2 years, and he still helps with Hurricane City. We've had all kinds of server issues lately and whatnot. He's been taking care of things. So again, Chris, thank you so much, sir. You're a blessing. I mean, I don't know how else.
Chris, you don't hear from me, but thank you. You
Yep.
don't hear from me that much, but thank you for what you do in helping Jim. It's amazing. Go on.
Again, anybody else wants to comment, feel free at YouTube or Facebook because we know both are working on it. I think Chris is at YouTube and Benjamin was at Facebook, so we know both are able to post. So, all right, let's get on with. But overall, just to wrap up on Adalia, could have been far worse. That area hadn't been hit in modern times up in that area, so this was a good drill for them. For if they get another major up there, they know what to do and how to handle it and what to expect. So I think it was a win-win all the way around. A few people died. It's unfortunate, but it could have been far worse. Like I said, and it was over.
They're really lucky. If you remember the night we went in there, the night we stayed at the Roach Motel, it was it looked like a normal night in there. I mean, it was just quiet. You wouldn't know a hurricane was coming. I mean, you could get gas. Yep. You could get anything you wanted.
No, people weren't taking it serious. It was crazy.
I mean, that's not how it normally works. If it was South Florida or up here, it would be Armageddon to no end because the media would hype the hell out of it.
Oh, God, yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Chris, yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for all you do. Again, Chris, excellent job on the, with one exception, I do have a bone to pick. I was going back through the best performing models data, and the Euro was missing on Adalia. So I don't know what happened there on that particular thing, but I think Adalia did the best on, Euro did the best on Adalia. But again, the Canadian was right there at the top on all the major systems this year. So, those two models were really standing out. All right, so here we go. Then we had Lee pop up. And Lee was the only Category 5 we had this year. Got up to 165 miles per hour. 160 miles per hour, I think. And
Lee was a one-trick pony. It strengthened really quickly and then come apart just as quickly.
So I made this graphic. The media was going nuts on Hurricane Lee. I've never seen anything like it. Not just the media, but the amateur forecasters out there. They're all over social media, grabbing it and pulling it into the Northeast. And I'm like, there's very few models to support that. And most of the mainstream models were keeping it off the coast of New York and Boston and taking it up into Maine or Nova Scotia. Meanwhile, all these other alt forecasters were saying, no, it's coming in. Look at this Euro. Like, the thing about the Euro, there's 50 members on that European model ensemble, and you can always find 10 that are going to take it to your house. You can bank that. No matter where it's going, there's 10 models of the Euro that's going to have it going to your house. It's 10 out of 50. Okay, so that's only 20% chance of any of those models being right. So again, it was the mainstream models were all taking it off the coast. They might get tropical storm force winds. That was always a possibility, but not the core coming in on the Northeast.
And we all know there's a Northeast bias with the media. There always has been, always will be. It's Armageddon anytime the Northeast is threatened with a hangnail. It could be a hangnail and they go nuts.
Yep, exactly.
It's really sad. I mean, I realize New York's one of the biggest cities in the U.S., but come on. So is Boston. I get all that. But bring some reality to the situation.
Yeah.
Lee was never a threat to the Northeast, nor was it going to be. The fact they were trying to pull this in there was a joke.
Yeah, and I mean, you got the cool sea surface temperatures up there, and it was becoming extratropical. That was in the forecast from the National Hurricane Center. So, I mean, not to downplay post-tropical systems can still have hurricane force winds, but it basically hit Nova Scotia, clipped Maine, right? Bangor, Maine got some tropical storm force winds and whatnot, but it wasn't the calamity that they were expecting. You know, it was. The Hurricane Center did a good forecast job, but they never showed it hitting the Northeast ever.
No.
So, but that was the strongest storm of the year. Is Hurricane Lee came in on Maine, just east of Maine there, and clipped Bangor, which was in my top 5 last year. So, here is the next image. This is Hurricane Tammy. That was another big story this year. Hurricane Tammy, typical Cape Verde system, tapped into those warm waters out in the East Atlantic, became a hurricane, and ended up hitting the small, tiny island. It's amazing how this hurricane paralleled the Leeward Islands. It's almost like it had eyes. It didn't want to make landfall. It stayed just off the Leeward Islands, and then bam, right when it got up to the very northern tip of the Leeward Islands, it hit Barbuda. The eye passed over. And there it was on October 22nd. 90. There was about 85 mile per hour winds, Category 1. And here's the radar. The eye passed right over Barbuda. Remember, that was the island that got annihilated by Hurricane Irma back in 2017 with Category 5 winds.
185 mile an hour back in
So this,
2017, straight off the scale.
Leveled them. And so that had to be like
island,
Go ahead.
I said wipe that island off the map. I mean,
right. Yeah. This time it had to feel like just a breezy day for them compared to that. All right, so the big story of this hurricane season, in my opinion, even bigger than Idalia, is Hurricane Otis in the East Pacific. And again, I don't cover East Pacific in Hurricane City, but before we get to Otis, can I mention real quick? I've made some changes to the front page of Hurricane City. We have the sail drones on there now, and that is really cool. I don't know if you've ever used that, Bill.
I'm learning it. I love it.
The sail drone, while it may not be current information, it's very valuable for forecasting purposes because you can follow. I think the blue dots are old observations, and the red are current, or at least recent. And when you go back and look at some of the older observations, you can see what the depth of the sea surface temperatures are in the areas out in front of where a hurricane is headed, because they've been doing regular reconnaissance on those sail drones.
Is there upwelling? Are there? What's the sea surface temperatures like? What's the overall environment going forward? There's so many different things you can learn.
Yeah, so the sail drone data is awesome, and those little links are right below the main frame at Hurricane City, the yellow boxes below the tracking chart. And also, if you scroll down the screen to the bottom of the site, I have an animation of what a Category 1 through a Category 5 does, starting at tropical storm force winds up to Cat 5, and it shows a house getting ripped apart, which is really cool. And I also have an El Nino graph on the upper right-hand corner of Hurricane City that changes automatically, and it shows you the current status of El Nino, which is 1.5 degrees in the East Pacific. So those are 3 additions I added during the hurricane season, rather, at Hurricane City. So I'm always changing things a little bit here and there. It's not major changes, but I do update Hurricane City and comment on it every couple of days during the hurricane season. So I just wanted to get that in there. And again, if you want to comment on Facebook and YouTube. If you're watching tonight, we'll put your comments up on the screen. So here's Hurricane Otis, Bill, and that's in the East Pacific. It hit Acapulco as a Category 5, 165 mile per hour winds, and it gained 115 mile per hour winds in 24 hours, which is simply amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, picture a hurricane off of Miami as a tropical storm, minimal tropical storm,
40, 50 miles an hour, basically what this was 24 hours earlier. It was nothing.
Yep. A tropical storm becoming a Cat 5 in 24 hours. That's just amazing. And the damage in Acapulco is phenomenal. Condominiums gutted, whole towns and city streets like wiped off the map. Every single building has major structural damage.
And they're only talking about 50 to 60 fatalities. I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't buy the death toll at all. I think it got up to 100 though. I mean, when's the last time you checked? Did you?
They said 100 were missing, but they had confirmed like 50 or 60 dead, and that was from early November. So I couldn't find anything within the last week. Admittedly, that was a quick Google search, but still, even if take that at face value for what it is, those numbers are low. I'm sorry, they're low.
Yeah.
With damage like that.
I'm wondering, were they able to evacuate all those people on that short of notice? I seriously doubt that. So
that is, you would think maybe the only comparison, Charlie went from a 2 to a 4 in about a 6 hour window. Michael was practically doing the same thing, but we could see that going on the night before, going in, but that was also forecasted. It was also forecasted to be well into the major category too. So it makes a difference, but we knew we were dealing with an animal. This just come out of nowhere.
Right.
What do you do for something like this?
Yeah. I'm asking, did they get everybody out of there? I seriously doubt. And that means
no chance.
People had to be in the back of their condo. Imagine yourself at the 20th floor of a condominium and your walls are being blown out inside of your condo. Like, you're hiding in the interior bathroom. There's videos all over social media, people hiding in their interior bathrooms as the entire of the building is being gutted. So,
I mean, what I would have done, if that were my apartment building or my condo, because I would have been on the ground floor, I would have brought as many people into my unit as I could have. I'd have got them off that 20th floor, because you're basically trying to commit suicide up there.
You would have been underwater, though.
What's that?
You would have been underwater, though, with the storm surge.
Yeah, what do you do? Well, but this is an area that just doesn't see that. They go all around Acapulco. I mean, this is like Virginia Beach getting hit dead on. That hasn't happened since, the 1930s. I mean, it doesn't. I hate to give that comparison, but it's an odd angle. We probably won't see something like that again in our lifetime.
I don't know about that. I think we're going to see more of this. Rapid
I'm not
We've already
saying
seen it.
We won't see any storms of that intensity, no. But I'm talking about Acapulco itself.
Well, perhaps. I mean, that region, perhaps. But to say that it won't happen in the Atlantic, no, I think it could happen in the Atlantic.
No, it could totally happen in the Atlantic. No, I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah, I think we could see something like that in the Gulf, where the waters are always really warm. Down in South Florida, where the waters are always really warm. Western Caribbean, we've seen that in the Western Caribbean numerous times, where Wilma went.
I could easily see us thinking we're going to get a 2 or 3, and it winds up being a 5.
Yeah, I mean Wilma.
Yeah,
And Chris makes a good point here. He says that if they had more recon in the East Pacific, there would have been a lot more warning for people. They could have maybe picked up that there was an eye wall forming on that storm, before it became a rapid intensification situation.
But they had radar, if I'm not mistaken. Wouldn't the radar show them that?
Did they have a radar gun? I don't think there was radar. Was there radar? I don't think so.
I was pretty
I don't know.
certain there was radar. Well, no. I'm sorry. There wasn't, and they mentioned that was mentioned by I'm confusing something. Brian Norcross brought that up. There was not radar. He was making that comparison that we would have that advantage because our radars in the States would pick something like that up.
Right.
And 3, 4, 5, 6 hours notice, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of time. You could at least try to do something if you know you're going to get nailed.
Right.
I mean, I'll never forget. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to go somewhere else, but I'm not going to go there. But they need to. Who pays for those Eastern Pacific flights? I mean, there needs to be more radar investment, but that's on the Mexican government. Hopefully they learn from this.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. It's not a U.S. problem. We can't fix that. That's up to the Mexicans to get their radars working, which they don't. And I guess NHC could dispatch the recon over there. That's their responsibility. It's probably.
And I think dispatching them from Mississippi, or is it still Keesler from where they're flying? They need to have a couple planes sit over there. If you know you're going to have a hurricane making landfall, why are they having to fly constantly from our base? Long ass flight. And
it's not that long of a flight when you think about it. They fly. They fly out near Bermuda from there all the time, so they can do it. It's not Acapulco isn't that far.
Yeah, but it seems like you might only get 1 or 2 eyeball passes, and then they're headed home because they got to fly back.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is we need more surveillance. I mean, look at what we do here in the States. There's radar. There's recon. You've got cell drones now. You've got drones. You've got the Gulfstream jet where they're trying to put more data into the models. It is a full court press. It is not from a lack of effort if something gets screwed up.
All right, Chris said the radar was working in 2021, but it was not working for Otis.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah. And Chris, by the way, Chris does an excellent job. If anybody, again, one of those yellow links below the tracking map is all the radars in the entire Atlantic Basin. There's hardly an area that's not covered. And if they don't have a radar, you can use the radar composites. So that covers a wide area of radars. And Chris does an absolute fantastic job with the radar. It's a GIS map with the radar locations. It's awesome. Chris has been doing some really good work with the GIS stuff and the recon data. Again, that's all live at Hurricane City. When a storm is active, you can go down there and click the recon. You can get the sail drones, you can get radars, you can get sea surface temperatures, you can get the forecasted rainfall on the particular storm, and observations. Most importantly, buoys, ship and buoy data. It's really valuable when I'm monitoring a system that's about to develop. I go right below that tracking map at Hurricane City. I got everything I need right there without even turning a page. Everything is right there, and it shows
Click. Yep.
So, anyway, want to make a final note here. Funding, right? So, I don't like to grovel and beg for people for money, but I was watching a lot of those Storm Chasers videos out there, and these guys are raising thousands of dollars. In the amount of time that they're out there in a storm, they're raising thousands of dollars on their social media sites, and there's no reason we shouldn't be able to do the same. We're telling the story. We're in the impacted areas. If we're not in the impacted areas, we're covering it, doing the shows. If they're in the Caribbean, we'll try to cover it if it's a major hurricane. It's time consuming, expensive. The server costs are through the roof right now. It's like thousands of dollars a year to run Hurricane City. So if you're on my mailing list, I know those are people that continue to donate. We appreciate it so much because even those $10 and $20 amounts are huge. But when we're on the road and you see our live stream, we're going to try to put up a QR code on the screen for next year, or some kind of a way for people to click on the screen or donate through social media where they can help fund the cost of these things, because we can't do in-house coverage anymore because everything is copyrighted. We have to get out in the storm and cover it. So
I've never seen there. I sent you now this is sports related, Jim, but I sent you an article the other day of they're just cracking down on people showing minimal stuff from Fox Sports and they want it taken down. You got to be kidding me.
yeah,
These are just people having fun with events, and they're groveling over that. You got to be kidding
yeah.
me.
It's a different world we live in. Everybody's greedy, and they're all, and in Hurricane City, by the way, you'll never see pop-up ads. I mean, at times I'm on a news site and I'm reading something, and all of a sudden an ad pops up in front of your face, and you lose track of where you were reading and everything. It's so annoying. I've never done that in Hurricane City. We've never
And we
bombarded
never
with
will.
ads, anything like that. I like to keep it simple in the way it used to be. And so we need the donations. I mean, it's as simple as that. I'm just not going to bombard people with advertisements and get sponsors and all that. I don't want to bother people with that. I just don't want to do it.
I mean, let's do simple math, and we're not complaining. We're just being real with people. It's a minimum of $1,000 for us to get in that truck and chase.
Yeah, it is.
Minimum.
Camera just
You
fell
know,
off.
and that's I mean, and for the record, I want to say this again publicly. Thank you for that. My first opportunity, Jim, and it was an honor to do that with you with Adalian. Look forward to next year and hopefully doing it again. Now, but
Yeah, you're welcome.
with that,
I said you're welcome, and it was a lot of fun having you along
yeah.
with me, because for years you've been kind of on screen, and we talked about this, how people think that we're still, when we're both in the hurricane, they think we're both in the studio and we're carrying somebody else's dash cam. That's us out there. We're not doing that anymore. It's been like 6-7 years now. We don't cover other people's dash cams anymore. That's either me or us out on the road with a live camera shot. So
Unless it's the Caribbean where we don't have a choice. If it's the U.S., we're gonna try to go get it, because with the copyright crap, you can't touch this stuff anymore. You just can't.
yeah, you can't. So it's huge. The funding is huge, and we just got to step it up, because it's just not enough, and it's really expensive. But anyway, so let's wrap
There's
it up.
computer equipment there, and I sorry to cut you off again, Jim, but understand all the money that we raise from this. Jim and I are not going to get rich off of it. There's equipment that has to be bought. There's computers that have to be maintained. There's equipment for the truck that has to be maintained.
Yeah,
There's constant. I can't tell you how many hours we spend on the phone, or we spend looking at a camera, trying to figure out how we're going to deploy it, how are we going to use it, are we going to do something else?
yeah.
We spend hours trying to figure this stuff out. It's not easy.
Yeah,
Hours.
the remote cameras have to be maintained. The anemometer, in fact, when I got back, I swapped out the anemometer. After that 166 mile an hour gust, I'm like, we got to get this fixed. So I went and bought a brand new anemometer from Davis, and that's ready to go for next year. But that's the stuff like that. Every time you go into a hurricane, you learn about something else you need or didn't do right the last time, and you have to upgrade. And so it's just, but even pushing that aside, it's just the cost of the fuel, lodging, and time away from work that is just really expensive. So, any help.
And remember, Jim's a contractor in South Florida. He does this because he wants to do it, not because he has to.
Right.
And he's got a full-time business to run, and
And business is terrible, by the way.
It'll improve. Hang in there.
Yeah, business has been terrible, but even if business was good, it's still, I have to shut everything down to go chase. So it's like you need the funding. All these other guys out there doing these stringers, these guys that are out there doing this, not to take any money out of their pockets, but they're getting paid by the TV stations. They don't need your money. They're getting paid by the networks that they're sitting on the phone during the storm calling ABC News, CBS, NBC, and they're getting money from those networks, like thousands of dollars. They don't need the $5 and $10 donations like we do. We're out there to cover the story. We're not out there to sit on the phone and broker our video and all that crap. We're just out there to show the audience what's happening in the affected areas. That's it.
I'll just throw a number out there. I'd be happy with $2,000 a year, just to cover because that would cover the majority of the website expenses themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not asking for a lot here. We're really not.
Yeah. And I know people saw me sick and thought, well, I'm giving up, and I'm not. I love hurricanes. I've been doing it all my life. I'm not going to. I'll do it till the day I die. Clint Eastwood says they're going to have to take the gun from my cold, dead hand. They're going to have to take Hurricane City from my cold, dead hands. I'm not. I'll do it to the day I die. If my cancer comes back and I'm dying, I'll still do it. I'll still do it till I can't walk anymore.
And if I have to go to the doctor with you one day and then we're on the road the next, so be it.
Yeah, that's what I love doing, and So anyway, let's wrap it up. So you're welcome. I'm glad I got you in a storm. I'm glad your family understands the process now, because I don't know if they saw the video or not, but it's good that you peeled off the bandages, so to speak, and
the brother was the big one. My brother's going to back me when I do this now, which will make it 100 times easier with the family. I don't think we have that issue to worry about any going forward. I can't talk now. Going forward.
Right. Okay.
I can't talk.
All right. So we have the off season, 6 months. The season ends today. Starts again on June 1st. I'll probably be doing a hurricane season kickoff show if my health is good and everything. And
I'll fly down because we'll probably be testing this week.
Huh?
If you're healthy, I'll fly down. That's a good time to do testing and get the kinks out.
Yeah, good idea. So, off season here, we've got there's been I think like 50 named storms in the off season since 1871, between November 30th and June 1st. So that's about once every 3 years we get a system in the Atlantic that's in the off season. So keep your eyes open. Of course, if there's any land threats or anything, I'll be covering it. But I took the instruments off the truck and everything. I'm considering the season over, but it's never really over. You can always have a system pop up out there. There's been 7 hurricanes in the off season. 3 of them hit land. 3 hurricanes in the off season. And
if we get a hurricane to hit Florida in January, or I don't care if it's February or March, I'll fly down for that, just because it's not supposed to happen.
Well, the only January hurricane, there was a January hurricane a long time ago that hit the Eastern Caribbean islands, and I think the Azores have been hit by a hurricane, and I think Bermuda's been hit by a hurricane in the off season. Yeah. But not Florida. Florida has not had a hurricane in the off season.
And there's a reason for that. We get the fronts that come off the continent constantly, and they deflect. Or there is unfavorable upper level winds, or in the wintertime the water's too cold.
Right. Yeah, of course. And the wind shear is ridiculous, but sometimes you can get a chance something develops off a cold front or something, and you got a storm on your hands. So
yeah.
But Diane Cronin on the screen here. Thank you for making Bill's wish come true. It's well, yes and no. I mean, it's not really a wish per se. It's a beginning of regular.
We're going to do it again.
Yeah, that was the perfect hurricane for you too, by the way, because it wasn't too weak to where you wouldn't have really gotten a little bit of goosebumps on the back of your neck. but it wasn't like it was going to kill you. It was kind of like, well, not that it would kill you, but you know what I mean, like make you feel like you're ready to be killed. It was like
I kind of wanted longer just to get the experience. It was like a cup of coffee with it. I need more.
it wasn't straw, it wasn't concrete, it was wood.
It was wood. Yeah, it was wood.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. I mean, what would you? What I mean, I would call Michael concrete. I mean, that was you were beat to hell for that one.
Oh, Michael, I was taking hits from big air conditioning units and shit. I mean, it was like I'm in the fetal position on the front of the truck, like, oh, you know, the whole truck shakes and hits it.
Go play that video back, folks. There's about a good 10 minutes there where there's no audio at all, but I get Jim's video back, and he's just in the fetal position in that truck. I'm waiting for it to. I'm waiting for that truck to get flung, folks.
Yeah.
I was ready. I was literally thinking, there is this it? Because it was that bad.
Yeah, and the lights got flung off the truck, and the Lexine glass smashed and everything, and I'm like, crazy.
You had the paint peel off that. You had paint peeled off that truck, courtesy of that storm. It was nuts.
Yeah, that was good paint. That wasn't worn out paint or anything, and it peeled back. And I looked on Adalia. I looked on the truck. There was no paint peeled, so the winds weren't strong enough to peel the paint. I think you need about probably 150 to do that.
Well, and it was the duration of those winds that peeled that paint. That wasn't over in 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It was hours and hours. Well, it was a couple hours, like that.
It was about 2 hours of what I would call insane.
It was a whole.
It lasted 3. I mean, the core of it only lasted 3. I mean, it was in and out of there.
But it was a whole hurricane. It had all 4 quadrants because Adalia was a half of a hurricane. It was the north and east, west side, and the rest was hollow.
Like Jim just said, if you got time to kill, look at the comparisons between storms. Look at the different videos because you can really learn what is half a hurricane versus a full one. Or you can really, no hurricane is the same. They're all different. Each one of them has their own personality.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, they all have their own personalities and their own, and I know a lot of the chasers were bummed out because there wasn't really an eye on this one. They were in the dry slot, but that wasn't an eye.
No, it clapped like a cheap suit. I mean, it clapped quick.
Yeah, that was funny. All right, man. Well, it's great with you this season. Again, fortunate we didn't have more to go after, but kind of sorry we didn't have more to go. I said one of my clients.
One more would have been nice.
One of my clients mentioned something in my business and said, "Well, I guess you're disappointed, or you guess you lost this hurricane season." I go, "No, it's a win-win because I win if no hurricanes hit." Because nobody gets to lose their life, nobody has property damage, nobody has to deal with the stress of a hurricane. And if it does happen, I win because I get to go there and cover it. It's what I do.
Yeah, when we go cover these storms, we're not rooting for your house to be destroyed. Don't get us wrong when we're excited. These storms are going to do what they're going to do anyway. We're just celebrating what nature does.
Yeah. So it's a win-win either way it goes, in my opinion.
That's it.
So... All right, so I don't know if we'll do any off-season shows or not. Perhaps, maybe, I don't know.
We might do one if we get a hair up our butt. If something strikes our interest, but I doubt it.
Yeah. So we'll see you back here on June 1st, hurricane season kickoff show, and we'll go through this process all over again. And this year I'm going to put a little more effort into my predictions. And hopefully I'll right the ship a little bit because this is only my 3rd year I've had bad predictions out of since 2003. So that's 20 years of doing.
Yeah, don't throw any. I know you want me to see the predictions as they are on the 21st, but don't throw any of your chicken scratch sheets out because I want to see when I come down there. I want to see the inner workings of how you actually do this.
Well, you'll have to come early then, because I get that started in like late April.
No, I know May, but just save everything so I can see how you just walk me through. I don't know if you want to pick a city and just take me through that, or how you come up with piece by piece by piece. Show me the sausage is what I want to see.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, I'll do that. I'll give you. You'll see, it's a lot more involved than what it comes across like. People think I just use return rates, and return rates are just part of the puzzle. It's not a major part of the puzzle. So, all right, take some medicine. I'm holding back some coughs here myself. So
yeah, I'm gonna take some NyQuil here and knock myself out.
all right, everybody, be safe out there. Try to stay away from crowds till this rash of flus goes around. Especially if you're up there in age like I am, take care of yourselves. Younger people can deal with it much better. But
Jim and I are now both immunocompromised. I have been because of my disability, and he is because of his medical issues in the last couple of years. If you're immunocompromised, don't be stupid.
Yep, you're right. All right, buddy. Good job this year, and we'll catch you in 2024 hurricane season. So let's watch the opening video one more time, and we'll call it a night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.